Thank you for watching our video about cost of goods software we developed at Rondex Pharma for the purpose of estimating the cost to manufacture an API or any other compound for use in pharmaceutical manufacturing. The program is project-based. Within your database, there will be many projects. We happen to pick pregabalin, which was a project that we did to estimate the cost of goods to make this material based only on patent literature. So everything I show here is public information. There's nothing proprietary at all here, which makes it a good target for us. So we have a drawing of pregabalin. We can put in a short amount of information about what it is and why we're doing this project. In this case, we just simply put in what we had from our research as we were putting this together for a client, and a name. You can also attach files. In this case, we did not attach any, but you could attach information that you may find useful that you want to keep in future. So it's very easy to create a new project. You simply click here to create a new project, and you can start from scratch. And of course, it records who did it and when you did it. But let's go back to pregabalin. These buttons along here help you control. This allows you to import entities, update entities. These are things we'll talk about. These are some of the databases that we provide. This allows you to reload a project. This is a logout. It works just like any other program you can think of. This allows you to see who's using the material. This is about you, the user. And here's a place where you can manage if you happen to be a super user, you can control who sees the program and who works on a project. So in this case, there's 5 of us are allowed to see pregabalin. You can control the access of anybody in seeing a particular product. If someone starts this up and they don't have permission to see pregabalin, they can't. It's like it's not even there. So that's a nice feature of this as well. So let's go the first page, the projects page. You define a project, and then you begin adding materials to it. So this is where you would do that. You would go into this application, and you would start, for example, here we've named pregabalin. The amount of information that you have to add is really very minimal, so you only have to put in this much. You can put in much more if you want to. There's other classifications. There's the intermediates. Sometimes there's what we call a pre-formulated API, so there may be some combinations with other products before it's turned into a thing, or it's just simply milled. And there's all the starting materials for this program, or for some other things as well. And then there's what we call other. So these are typically things that are expensive catalysts and things like that. And then we have raw materials. So this is a combination of things that are specific to a project or are global compounds that can be used by anybody in the client information. And in fact, as part of the subscription, we also provide information about really commonly used reagents and solvents and other materials like that. This is our facilities. This is where we keep information about the cost to operate a plant in many different locations in the world and very specific suites inside those plants, and professional labor costs and the waste charges. Vendors is an application where we keep track of not only which vendors supply raw materials, but also which raw materials are supplied by a particular vendor. So this is a very handy feature that many of our clients find extremely useful. Processes is where the user starts bringing in the specific information about how to make the compound that they're interested in. So in this case, we're looking at the bill of materials to do a particular step in the pregabalin process. In this case, a cyanide addition. And so all the bill of materials are all put in. The limiting agent is identified, and the ratios of all compounds are placed in based on information, in this case from a patent. Worksheets, we then take bill of material that you just saw, or that process that was outlined earlier, and now we start adding the information that's important to how it would be run in a plant. So we start running it at very large scale. This would be a 2-ton input, inputting the cost information that we've we've entered earlier, and we identify the facility in which it's going to be operated, and we start talking about, okay, how many batches per week are going to be produced, how much manpower is required to operate the batch, what is the waste charge for the batch. So what we're starting to do now is we're collecting all of the economic information that goes together with that chemical process, as was described in the process step. The route diagram, this is a diagram that's created automatically from the process information. So, for example, each of these nodes is a process that was outlined earlier. So there's an input, and then there's an output. So that information is taken together, and that's how we create this route diagram. So we can see 1 makes 2, makes 3, and so it progresses through the process. And you can see the specific information that's provided. The yield, the molecular weight of the particular intermediate, the amount of this material, compound 3, that's needed to make 1 kilo of API is 3.3 kilos. So all of this is collected in this very nice diagram that we find very useful and use all the time. You see the synthetic route in chemistry format, and we also have a quantity calculator that you can use to estimate how much material can be produced from a single. In order to make a ton of pregabalin, how much of the other materials are you going to need in order to make the material? So that's the route diagram. The scenario diagram is a very similar concept. It's based on a route diagram, and this is a collection not of processes as the route diagram was, but a collection of worksheets that we showed earlier. So, for example, we can look at a scenario whereby we collect together all of the worksheets that are associated with this route and were done in a Western facility. So we bring all of those together, and this collection is something that we can review, and this is how we make our final cost estimates. And you can review the worksheets in place. The reports, then, now we're starting to get output from the scenarios. The scenario is now here, and we can create a cost ladder report, which is a graphical representation of the cost drivers for the pregabalin material. So you have a graphical presentation of the cost of making pregabalin. So you can see that the material cost at each of the stages is presented. And you can see the total number, which is, for this particular scenario, is $680 a kilogram. And you can see where the cost drivers are for this particular scenario, and the cost from the various materials. And you can compare this to the other scenarios that are considered as well. So it's a very nice contrast and compare. You can really see what's happening in your process. You can export this information to Excel, Word, or PDF format. And then another thing that's always very useful is we can do a sensitivity analysis. So here we consider that same scenario again. And a question that often gets asked is, well, what if we change the number of batches per week, or the output per week, or the yield of a step, or the price of a key raw material? What would happen if we did that? So without breaking the model, we can simply make a change, and this does not impact anything that we save. And we can just see what would happen if we change that price by just $6 to $10. And you can see that the cost of that pregabalin rises, kind of surprisingly, a great deal, from $680 to almost $707. Something that is extremely useful, and something we apply all the time. That's an overview of the cost of goods software. So thank you for your attention.